The holiday shenanigans continue as we head into part 2 of our Pierside episode, Holidays in Uniform, here on Sparks 1524. Stay tuned.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Jason Spencer. I'm a Master Chief in the United States Navy. Been in for 28 years now. So I've had plenty of time doing holidays with other service members, away from my family and that sort of thing. And that's always one of the hardest things to do, is be away from your family. But what really sticks with me is the camaraderie that is built around your brothers and sisters when you are gone for the holidays. And one of those memories was actually at my first duty station. I think it was my second tour at my first duty station. But the skipper of the national or the security agency that flew with us when I was in VQ2 invited us all over for dinner when we were all deployed in Bahrain, and we had an amazing dinner together over Christmas and bonded and that sort of thing. And I still cling to those memories of my brothers and sisters that were there and were able to share in those times, because it's, like I said, never easy to be away from your family and that sort of thing. One of the other things that I've always done up until this year actually is on Christmas Eve we do a Italian feast and invite all our friends and family over, including many service members that I serve with and that sort of thing, that don't have anywhere to go on the holidays, or they are unable to make it home. So we invite them over to the house, have an Italian meal, and, just be together as a Navy family, if you will. I'm sure that happens throughout the services and that sort of thing, because that's just who we are. And we bring people together and pull them into our own families when they don't have anywhere to go. That's one of the things that I love about military culture and being deployed. But it is, like I said, always hard to be away from family. I hope you guys have a good one. Bye.
Hello, welcome to part 2 of Holidays in Uniform here on Sparks 1524. I'm Nathaniel Miller. Not all holidays are memorable because it's your first time overseas. You can only have a first time overseas. Not all holidays are memorable because you wind up in a war. Sometimes they're memorable because you're celebrating Christmas and New Year's just after surviving a major natural disaster. 2001 was clearly a momentous year for our entire country. 2002 was a momentous year for the island of Guam and those of us who were on it after it was struck by Super Typhoon Pongsonghua on December 8th. I left VF 213 in May of 2002, attended an intermediate photojournalism course, and then headed out for an assignment at the base photo lab on the island of Guam. The photo lab was operated by Fleet Imaging Command Pacific, and I now had a couple of years of shore duty ahead of me on a beautiful tropical island. I'd only ever read about in World War II history books, but the more I learned about it before I headed out there, the more I was really excited, because there was so much more to the history of Guam and the Chamorro people. I got there just before Thanksgiving of 2002, and that was a lot of fun. I was enfolded in the arms of the Christian Servicemen Center with a lot of great Christian servicemen, and also some who were not so Christian, but they were still welcomed into the fold because we're all service members overseas. Thanksgiving dinner was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people. I met so many people, it was hard to remember everybody I met. Right after Thanksgiving, I'm still living in temporary barracks on base. We get word that a typhoon is coming, and it was coming straight at the island. Landfall was expected for December 8th, 2002. Now, we'd already gotten the Christian Servicemen Center decorated for the place. I was still living in temporary barracks. I had just signed a lease on a condo, but I wasn't moving until January. I was told, hey, come on down to the Servicemen Center. The island's not going to have power for a while. You might as well be hanging out with some people instead of sitting alone in the barracks. We spent that evening playing board games and cooking everything we could since we were going to lose power. The more we could cook, the easier it'd be to preserve food once the refrigerator was dead. There were 6 or 7 of us there at the time, and then other people scattered, so we finally wound up with 6 of us spending the night. We called ourselves the Pongsonga Six after this. The typhoon hit on December 8th, and it leveled the island. It was one of the biggest natural disasters to hit any U.S. territory until Hurricane Katrina. The 6 of us finally retreated into the bunk room because it was the only room that was not breached by the storm. So, about 2 or 3 in the morning on December 9th, we're poking around the broken glass and everything in the center, and we find the Christmas tree crumpled in the corner. It was partly humorous, but it was also partly a mark of, okay, we survived it and we're still here. So we picked the tree up and set it back upright. Sunrise on the 9th really brought home the devastation we'd lived through. The Serviceman Center itself was a catastrophe, and the entire island felt like it had just been leveled. Remarkably, we actually recovered power and water and basic services to most of the island within just a few weeks. Some parts of the island, however, the more remote parts, didn't have power back when I left in 2006. As remarkable as our survival had been, there was one fatality. There was an elderly woman in the island who had a heart attack, but medical services could not get to her through the storm and she passed away. As much as we had to celebrate as we headed toward Christmas in a couple of weeks, and we had a lot to celebrate, there was that knowledge in the back of our head that as good as things were going for most of us on that island, there was one family, one community that was going to face a very somber holiday because they'd lost their matriarch. And you never quite get that out of your head. We ended up gathering for Christmas Day at Jeremy and Christy Bowlby's house. Good friends of mine, of all of us. They're great people. We had a white elephant gift exchange. I had never been part of one of those before, and I thought it was hysterical. We had dinner. Jeremy and some of the guys grilled out. For New Year's, we went to the Christian Serviceman Center and we had a New Year's Eve vigil out there in the amphitheater. And then we watched the fireworks over the village of Tumon. And it was a very powerful sense of both catharsis that the storm is over, the disaster part's over, we're well into recovery and we're recovering quicker than we expected. We have this bright new year ahead of us. And by the way, we're out of typhoon season now for at least 6 months. So we're clear of typhoons. So New Year's 2003 is one of the few New Years for me that is just as memorable as Christmas Day was and as Thanksgiving Day was. The rest of the Christmases I was on island in 03, 04, they were good, but the one that jumps out in my mind is Christmas of 2005, which was my last Christmas on the island. Myself and some of the gang from the Serviceman Center, we were walking around downtown Tumon. Tumon is one of Guam's biggest villages, and it's the center of the tourist industry. It's built right along Tumon Bay, so it's a gorgeous, gorgeous village, and I actually lived in Upper Tumon, up on the hillside overlooking the city in the bay. We were walking along and looking at all the Christmas lights, and unlike in Spain, this time I was taking pictures. So we're looking at the Christmas lights, and it's just this gorgeous experience of walking along this illuminated city. This always comes to the forefront of my memory is because of the snowman. We're on a tropical island. We have palm trees and surf, and in the middle of Tumon's Christmas display is a snowman. The image of snow and snowman is so indelible to the general Christmas season that even on a tropical island, having a snowman display did not look out of place, and that's why I remember it so much.
Currently been in for going on my second year now. This is going to be my first Christmas with my wife. We are expecting our first child, and we're hoping to do some great things for holidays. This year, my mom's coming down for Christmas. We're going to go to Disneyland and have some fun there. Overall, me and my wife's overall goal idea for our Christmas tradition is picking out somewhere either local or somewhere fun and kind of going and seeing the new sites, but my overall goal is to find somewhere close to there that is a hidden gem that gives that wow feature. On top of that, me and my wife already made a tradition for the holidays, and that is we'll watch a movie related to said holiday. And right now we're watching Nightmare Before Christmas for the second time this year. So I want to Die Hard, but Jack Skellington wins, I guess.
The holiday season when I was deployed aboard USS Ponce, well, I shouldn't say deployed aboard, I was actually part of the ship's company. That's the first time in my career, the only time I was actually part of the ship's crew. Otherwise, every time I deployed, I was just a shipwrighter. I was out there just for the mission. So Ponce is special to me, and that was the one time I was part of the ship's crew. And our holiday season during our 2010 deployment was pretty busy. On the 24th of November, just the day before Thanksgiving, we had the hugest mail call. We were doing a replenishment at sea, or RAS, also known as an underway replenishment, where we steamed alongside a cargo ship and took pallets over a high line while a helicopter was bringing and dropping cargo and mail. We got so much holiday mail that our entire mess decks, where the enlisted crew ate, was cleared of the tables and turned into a gigantic mailroom. Now, Ponce, we had about 425 sailors and around 800 Marines at this time. So it's a big crew. Now, when I deployed with VF 213 aboard USS Carl Vinson, we were out over Christmas in '01, but I don't know what mail call looked like because I was up on the flight deck helping launch aircraft. Because even once we were out of the war zone, we still had to keep launching jets because our air crew needed to keep their flight hours up, and on the flight deck we needed to keep our own mechanical proficiency up. But for the just over 1,000 people aboard Ponce, we had a tsunami of mail. There was so much mail that it's kind of a wonder the ship didn't capsize from becoming so top heavy. Everybody who wasn't working was working. If you weren't on duty steering the ship, manning the engines, or on the flight deck handling all the cargo coming over and coming down, you were in the mess decks helping be a mail clerk. I was the ship's media center. I was it. I was the photographer, the videographer, the reporter, the whole nine yards. So I'm running out there and filming on the flight deck as all this cargo and mail's coming in. And that's a normal part of my job. I would do it all the time and I loved it because it was an exciting time. Then I would run back into the mess decks and I would be filming all of this mail. And it wasn't haphazard, but we were kind of had to start it in general terms, like executive and department and medical, that corner, Marine Corps, that corner, combat cargo, back over there, engineering, over here. Oh, wait a minute. Engine room one, over here. Engine room two, over there. Just to start piling it up so we could start sorting it. Now, the next day, the 25th of November, was Thanksgiving Day, so we had the traditional huge Thanksgiving dinner with all the trimmings, as can only be done by Navy culinary specialists. And that is not said in sarcasm. Navy CSs, when they want to, they know how to put on a really good spread. It also helps when they got the good groceries. Navy chow is not quite what everybody thinks it is, but that's because we're getting a bunch of boxed institutional food that they've got to produce en masse for thousands of people. But on the holidays, when they're given the good groceries and they have the chance to really shine, to really put some time into what they're baking, the spread is incredible. We had food everywhere. Roast beef, turkey, an ice cream station, more pieces of pie, pecan and pumpkin than you could shake a stick at. So it was a really, really good day. Normally, December 23rd is not really considered a holiday day. It's not, Christmas Eve is not exactly a day you ask off for work unless you're taking a whole vacation. But Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day was a back-to-back set of events in 2010 aboard Ponce that sticks out in my mind for all the right reasons because it was a lot of fun. On December 23rd, 2010, we were steaming in formation with the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN 72. The Lincoln is one of those ships I tried to get on my whole career. The Lincoln, the Enterprise, the Washington, I tried to get on those ships my whole career. Every time I was up for orders, I asked for those ships, and I never got on them. But getting to sail in formation with the Lincoln and the Enterprise later on in the deployment was really, really a cool experience, especially since the 23rd. We had a really awesome sunrise. It was very colorful. The dust from the Middle East was in the air, so it made the colors really orange and red, and it was very spectacular. And when you're on board a small amphibious transport dock like Ponce, that's about 500 feet long, and you're looking out the bridge window at an aircraft carrier that is so big your ship could fit inside its hangar bay lengthwise and still have room to spare. It's a pretty cool feeling. It's a great sensation, and it also lends itself to some great video. So I got as much video as I could of the aircraft carrier named after my favorite president, who just happens to be sitting right over here. Because we were going to be so busy the next few days, we did our holiday program the evening of the 23rd. So we started the morning in formation with the USS Abraham Lincoln, and we finished the evening singing Christmas carols. We had a pretty traditional holiday program. We sang carols, did poetry readings, played silly games, and I can assure you that the 2 piñatas we had did not suffer much. Actually, they suffered a lot. It took a while to get them broken, mainly because the guys who were strung at the piñatas would be pulling on the ropes, so the piñata would jump up and down while the guys swinging at it were swinging at it. No, I did not take a shot at the piñata. I have no illusions about my abilities as a baseball player, but it was a lot of fun. That was on the 23rd. Christmas Eve was a very busy day for us. We did flight ops with USS Carter Hall, LSD-50. Carter Hall was one of the 3 ships in our amphibious ready group. Our amphibious ready group was centered around USS Kearsarge, LH-23. We didn't have sight of her around Christmas, but the Carter Hall was nearby, and we were shuttling things back and forth via helo. Later that afternoon, we started to wind down for the holiday and kind of opened the celebrations with a basketball tournament in which I did not participate. If you knew me in high school, or you knew me at Florida State, or you knew me at all in the Navy, then you will know that when it comes to team sports, I suck worse than a broken Hoover vacuum cleaner. But being the ship's photographer is a great excuse to not participate in the game, because you're the one photographing the game that everybody wants those photos. You would be surprised just how intense basketball tournaments underway can get, or ping pong tournaments, or anything like that. Anytime where we can get together and start competing against each other. Sailors and Marines at sea will take that to a whole new level, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So Christmas Eve, we held a vigil out on the flight deck for those, and by the way, all of this is only for people who want to attend. Some of these are religious services for us Christians because this is Christmas. Some of it is more secular holiday celebrations, but you don't have to attend everything. So for the Christmas Eve vigil on the flight deck, that was all of us Christians, mainly. Everybody was invited, but it was a Christian service. On Christmas Day, we anchored off Kuwait, and we were shuttling Seabees ashore with our landing craft, Uniform 61. Now, this is one of the more traditional landing crafts you've seen all the way back to World War II. It's got a flat bottom, very shallow draft, a bow ramp that comes down so you can deploy soldiers, Marines, and equipment right on the beach. And we carry this inside Ponce's well deck, so we would ballast the ship down by flooding the well deck, open the stern gate, and the landing craft could sail in and out. Now, in order to make this day most efficient, we didn't bring the landing craft in and out all the time, because that would involve dropping the well deck door, or stern gate as we call it, bringing the landing craft in, closing the stern gate, ballasting the ship back up to drain the well deck, unloading and then reloading the landing craft, ballasting the ship back down to flood the well deck, opening the stern gate, and letting the landing craft out. In order to minimize the time, once we had the landing craft out, we engaged in what's called a stern gate marriage when it was time to come back to Ponce. So we have Ponce's stern gate is down in the water, the landing craft comes up, drops its bow ramp into the water, the two meet, the ship and the landing craft are chained together, so you now have a floating bridge between the two. And personnel and equipment go across that bridge from the ship into the landing craft and back and forth. I spent that day on the landing craft running back and forth, photographing and videotaping the Seabees as they were getting deployed for some exercises they were going to do with Kuwait Armed Forces. So like I said, I missed Christmas dinner. The ship put on a great Christmas dinner, just very much like they did for Thanksgiving. I just didn't get to eat any of it because I was in a landing craft having MREs. The only Christmas dinner I have ever had that was an MRE. And to this day, I cannot remember what I actually had. I don't remember if it was barbecue chicken or braised beef or whatever. I just remember it was an MRE. But it was a really fun Christmas day. Getting to see the transfer of that kind of equipment via a Sterngate marriage. It's a really fascinating piece of engineering and logistics that the Navy and the Marine Corps and the Seabees all have worked out. And being able to see and be part of it was really cool. Getting to set foot on yet another country. I had never been in Kuwait before. So I got to set foot in a whole nother country. And it's one of the reasons I joined the Navy. So here's a Christmas gift right there. I'm getting to set foot in another country. I joined the Navy to see the world, and I'm seeing a little more of it. It, of course, was bittersweet. There's no way around that. Because as much fun as we were all having, especially the crazy photographer here who just goes agog taking pictures, there's still that little voice in the back of your mind reminding you, hey, you need to call mom and dad tonight when you get a chance. There's that little voice while you're sitting there having Christmas dinner, be it the guys on the ship and me with the landing craft crew having MREs. You know, for the record, the landing craft actually had a galley. They normally cook full-on meals when they were running around. Just this day was so busy because we're moving so fast that the guys didn't have time to cook like they normally would. So that's why we did the MREs. Trust me, when most time I was out with the crew of Uniform 61 and they were cooking. And as much fun as Christmas is when you're getting to set foot in another country, it's not quite as spiritual when you're stepping off a landing craft breathing diesel fumes as a honkin' giant front end loader is motoring into Kuwait. Another one of those moments that is got that bittersweet tang. More sweet because it was a lot of fun, but still reminds you that you're very far away from home. You're far away from home for a reason. But you still stop for a few minutes and look across the ocean and just realize that, well, for me personally, Florida is thousands of miles that way. All my friends and family that are not aboard this ship are thousands of miles that way. You'd expect this story of Ponce's holiday season 2010 to end with a bang at New Year's, but it actually ends with a whimper at New Year's. You see, January 5th, 2011 was our halfway day. That was the halfway point of the deployment, so we planned a big blowout on the 5th. Big Steel Beach picnic, basketball tournament, weightlifting tournament, the whole shebang of sailors saying, "We're halfway to going home." So we really didn't do anything on New Year's. I spent New Year's Eve in my office. I had a small office, the public affairs office and the training office. We shared space. And the training officer, he was in the wardroom hanging out for New Year, so I had the office to myself. I spent New Year's Eve watching a Scooby-Doo movie on my laptop, sewing patches on my sea bag. I got in that habit of putting patches on my sea bag early on because, one, it let me find my sea bag easily in a pile of sea bags in the berthing. The other, it gave me something to do. So New Year's Eve 2010, I was just sitting there watching Scooby-Doo and sewing a patch on my sea bag. New Year's Day, January 1st, 2011, dawned pretty ordinary because we had the big blowout coming up on the 5th. And our halfway day celebration on January 5th was a whole lot of fun. But that's a story for another time. I hope you've enjoyed this look at some holiday memories from those of us in uniform. We all obviously have a lot more than what we've shared here, myself included. Some of my favorite holiday memories when I was stateside, or as I said earlier, in CONUS, was working as a volunteer photographer for Norfolk Botanical Gardens, getting to cover the Garden of Lights event. And they start stringing these lights up in September so they're ready for December. That was some magnificent Christmas memories, but those will be stories for another time. The period for us Americans from around, well, I mark it from Halloween to be honest, but at least from Thanksgiving through New Year's, is a time to celebrate and look to the future. Celebrate the great things we've done during the past year. Maybe somberly remember some of the sad events of the past year that are all part of the story, but either way, they all look toward the future. Because whether we like it or not, we're time travelers going in one direction. We're always going toward tomorrow. So we can either look at tomorrow with fear and trepidation, or we can look at tomorrow as hope because we're still building the future. We're building the future for ourselves, and we're building the future for our children. We're building the world they're going to live in. That's one of the things that can make the holidays a time to celebrate no matter what your circumstance. Well, plenty of holiday memories for future videos, and I look forward to sharing them with you over the next several years. Until we meet here again in 2025, I hope you have a great holiday season. To my fellow Christians, Merry Christmas. To everybody, Happy Holidays and Happy New Year. Be safe, have as much fun as you can, and even if you're in a very somber or sad part of your life, I hope you can find something, if not to celebrate, then at least to mark as something you look forward to. Be safe, think independently, and until we meet again, always go and do some great things.
My mother and I drove up there in my 57 Chevy. Yeah, we were up there in before Christmas. Hardly any money. The car breaks down, needed a new alternator. Every bit of money we had, which was $40, as I recall, to get it fixed. Your mom buys me a present. She's working at Bamberger's with a temp hire. This is one I love to think about. She hates. She buys me a present for Christmas. And then she's all excited and she wants me to guess what it is. So she gives me a description. She says, this tall, about like this, kind of looks like a rabbit. And I said, ukulele. Your mother goes, Felicity. She can't believe that I've guessed this surprise gift. That was the first Christmas. The other thing about that Christmas was we were in Jersey and it snowed like a bitch Christmas Eve. So we started out for midnight mass. About 3 or 4 blocks. I said, no, this is not going to work. We're going to get stuck, so we're going to go home. The next day, the car looks like a fastback. There was so much snow on it. It was really cool.
Now, 1973, you were in Alaska for your first unaccompanied.
All I can remember about that Christmas, not because I was drinking, that was New Year's, was that I got 2 shirts from your mother, from y'all. And one of them it said in great big white letters across the front, Papa, which is what you boys called me. And the other one said, on the back, it was a green, and big white letters said, President, Popular People Incorporated. And so I had to do a lot of explaining, but basically, when I first got over from Okinawa, Japan, Hawaii, I had a friend of mine who I bought the Chevy from, and later the GTO, and he was asking me something, and I said, well, when I was in Okinawa, I was fairly popular, and so it got to be a big joke with him that I was president of Popular People Incorporated. So I got that shirt.